Hello there, and a very warm welcome to you, wherever you are in this wide, wonderful world. Are you curled up on a comfy sofa in Karachi, sipping a warm cup of chai? Or perhaps you're watching this from a bustling cafe in London, a quiet library in New York, or maybe even under the vast, starry sky of the Australian outback. Drop a comment below and let us know where you're joining us from. It's always a thrill to see how far our stories travel before we embark on this incredible journey. Back in time, a little housekeeping. We pour our hearts and souls into creating content that we hope is not only informative, but also captivating. If you enjoy what you're about to experience, please do consider supporting us. A simple like, a subscription, or even sharing this with someone who you think might appreciate it goes a long way in helping us continue to tell these tales. Your support is the backbone of our work. And speaking of backbones, that brings us rather neatly to the topic of our story tonight. We're going to travel back, way back, to a time when life was, for lack of a better word, a bit wobbly. We're going to uncover the story of how a remarkable material, a substance of strength and resilience, emerged to give life its shape, its power, and its very framework. This is the story of bone, a tale of evolution, of epic struggles, of ingenious biological engineering, and ultimately of how we and all the vertebrates on this planet came to be. So, settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin our journey into the heart of what makes us who we are. How bones became the framework of life. Chapter 1. The Primordial Ooze, a world without form. Imagine, if you will, a world utterly alien to our own, a world over 3.5 billion years in our past. The sky is a hazy orange-pink, choked with gases that would be poison to us. The oceans, a tepid, soupy broth of chemicals, stretch across the globe, their shores lapped by listless, anemic waves under a sun that shines with a youthful, yet less intense, fervor. This is the Earth in its infancy, a planet teeming not with the vibrant, diverse life we know today, but with a silent, unseen majority. The microbial mats, the bacterial colonies, the very first tentative whispers of life in this primordial sea. Life was a simple, gelatinous affair. It was formless, a collection of single cells, sometimes clustering together in simple colonial structures. Think of them as living puddles, tiny, quivering blobs of protoplasm. Their only protection against the harsh outside world, a delicate membrane, a fragile bag holding the precious machinery of life within. There was no up or down, no front or back in any meaningful sense. Movement was a passive dance with the currents, a gentle drift in the warm, chemical-rich waters. For hundreds of millions of years, this was the status quo. Life existed, it replicated, it even diversified in its own simple way, but it lacked a fundamental quality that would one day define the animal kingdom structure. These early life forms were at the mercy of their environment. A strong current could tear them asunder. The gentle pressure of a neighboring colony could deform them. They were, in essence, living without a plan, without a blueprint for form. The very concept of a predator and prey relationship, as we understand it, was yet to be born. How could it be? Chasing and being chased requires a defined shape, a means of propulsion, a front end to lead the charge, and a back end to propel it. These early life forms could engulf smaller particles, certainly, But it was a slow, amoeboid process, a passive absorption rather than an active hunt. This was a world of softness, of pliability, of an existence dictated entirely by the whims of the water that surrounded and infused everything. It was a successful strategy for a very long time. After all, simplicity has its own elegance, its own resilience. But evolution is a relentless tinkerer, a restless innovator. The stage was set, the primordial soup was simmering with untapped potential, and a new chapter in the story of life was waiting to be written. A chapter that would require something more than just a flimsy cellular wall. It would require a scaffold, a framework upon which complexity could be built. The world was about to get a whole lot harder. Chapter 2: The Cambrian Explosion and the Dawn of Hard Parts. Fast forward a few billion years. The Earth has changed. The atmosphere is beginning to clear. Oxygen levels are on the rise, and the oceans are no longer a sterile chemical broth, but a dynamic environment teeming with a burgeoning diversity of life. We are on the cusp of a period of unparalleled evolutionary innovation, a biological Big Bang known as the Cambrian explosion. Suddenly, in the geological blink of an eye, the fossil record explodes with a dazzling array of new and bizarre life forms. It's as if a cosmic artist had thrown a bucket of wildly imaginative creatures onto the canvas of the planet. And what was the key innovation that allowed for this incredible diversification? Hard parts. For the first time, we see creatures with shells, with spines, with plates of armor. It was a biological arms race on a planetary scale. Life had discovered the power of minerals, the strength of secreted proteins, the advantage of having a solid, protective layer against the newly emerging dangers of a more crowded and competitive world. Armored pioneers were the arthropods, the ancestors of our modern insects, crustaceans, and arachnids. Their solution to the problem of structure was a brilliant one: the exoskeleton. Instead of an internal frame, they evolved a hard external casing, a suit of armor made of a tough, flexible polysaccharide called chitin, often reinforced with calcium carbonate. This exoskeleton was a game changer. It provided a rigid framework for muscles to attach to, allowing for powerful, precise movements. Legs could now scuttle across the seafloor, claws could grasp and tear, and segmented bodies could flex and undulate with newfound purpose. The trilobites, with their iconic three-lobed bodies, became the undisputed rulers of the Cambrian seas. Their exoskeletons providing both protection and a platform for their active, predatory lifestyle. But the exoskeleton, for all its advantages, had its limitations. It was heavy, for one thing. Imagine carrying your entire skeleton on the outside of your body. It also restricted growth. In order to get bigger, an arthropod has to shed its old exoskeleton and grow a new, larger one. During this molting process, the creature is soft, vulnerable, and an easy target for predators. And while the exoskeleton was a fantastic solution for life in the water, it posed significant challenges for any creature dreaming of a life on land. The sheer weight of an external skeleton would be a crushing burden out of the buoyant embrace of the ocean. A new, more internal, more adaptable solution was needed. The stage was set for another evolutionary leap, one that would take place not on the outside, but deep within the bodies of a new lineage of creatures. Chapter 3: The Notochord and the Dawn of the Vertebrates. While the arthropods were clanking around in their external armor. A different evolutionary experiment was taking place. A group of small, unassuming creatures, looking not unlike tiny, swimming worms, were developing a novel solution to the problem of support. They didn't have a hard, external shell. Instead, they evolved a stiff, flexible rod that ran along the length of their bodies. The notochord *. The notochord was made of a substance similar to cartilage, a tough, elastic tissue that we still have in our own bodies, in our noses and our ears. It wasn't as hard as bone, but it was strong enough to provide a central axis for the body, a kind of internal scaffolding against which muscles could pull. This simple yet elegant innovation was the hallmark of a new phylum, the Chordata, the group to which we and all other vertebrates belong. One of the earliest and most famous examples of a creature with a notochord is a small, fish-like animal called Pikaia. Found in the rich fossil beds of the Burgess Shale, Pikaia swam with a graceful, side-to-side motion, its muscles contracting in sequence along its body, pulling against the firm yet flexible notochord. This was a new way of moving, a more efficient and powerful method of propulsion than the wiggling of the earlier, formless creatures. The notochord was a revolutionary invention. It allowed for the development of a distinct head and tail, a streamlined body plan that was perfect for active swimming. It provided a central anchor for a more organized and powerful muscular system. And, most importantly, it laid the groundwork for the evolution of a true internal skeleton. The notochord was the first draft, the prototype of the vertebral column. It was the ancestral backbone. While most chordates lose their notochord during development, replaced by the bony vertebrae of the spine, its appearance marks a pivotal moment in our own evolutionary history. It was the moment when our distant ancestors took their first tentative steps down a path that would lead to the intricate, articulated, and incredibly strong internal framework that we now call a skeleton. The age of the wobbly blobs was well and truly over. The age of the backbone had begun. The world was about to see the rise of a new dynasty of animals, a dynasty built not on external armor, but on an internal framework of living, growing, and incredibly adaptable bone. Chapter 4. The Cartilaginous Revolution. A softer strength than notochord was a triumph of biological engineering, but it was just the beginning. The next great leap forward in the story of the internal skeleton was the rise of a new kind of tissue, a substance that was both strong and flexible, tough yet lightweight, cartilage. Imagine a world emerging from the Cambrian explosion, a world where the seas are a battleground of new and fantastic creatures. The heavily armored trilobites still patrol the sea floor, but now they share their domain with a new and fearsome predator, a creature that moves with a sinister grace, its body a marvel of streamlined efficiency. This is the age of the cartilaginous fishes, the ancestors of our modern sharks and rays. These early fish took the basic chordate body plan and refined it to a terrifying degree of perfection. Their skeletons were not yet made of true bone, but entirely of cartilage. This cartilaginous skeleton was a masterpiece of design. It was significantly lighter than bone, allowing these early predators to be incredibly agile and fast in the water. They could twist and turn with a speed and precision that the more cumbersome, externally armored creatures could only dream of. The evolution of a cartilaginous skeleton allowed for a simple, flexible rod was now encased in a series of cartilaginous rings, the first true vertebrae. This provided even greater support and flexibility, allowing for the powerful, undulating swimming motion that is still the hallmark of sharks today. But perhaps the most significant development of this era was the evolution of jaws in the jawless fish that preceded them. The front end of the body was a simple, circular mouth, capable only of sucking up small particles of food from the seafloor. But in the cartilaginous fishes, a remarkable transformation took place. The first few gill arches, the cartilaginous supports for the gills, migrated forward and became modified into a pair of hinged jaws. This was a world-changing event. The evolution of jaws opened up a whole new range of ecological niches. It was the dawn of true active predation on a large scale. The seas were no longer a place for gentle filter feeding and passive grazing. They were now a dynamic and dangerous arena where the hunter and the hunted were locked in a perpetual evolutionary dance. The success of the cartilaginous fishes was a testament to the power of this new type of skeleton. Sharks have roamed the oceans for over 400 million years, their basic body plan remaining remarkably unchanged. They are a living testament to the fact that bone is not the only solution to the problem of building a large, powerful, and successful animal. Cartilage, the softer, more flexible cousin of bone, had proven its worth and had, in its own way, conquered the ancient seas. But even the magnificent cartilaginous skeleton had its limitations. While it was perfect for the buoyant environment of the ocean, it lacked the sheer compressive strength to support a large body on land. For life to take its next great step, to conquer the continents, a new, even stronger, and more dynamic material would be needed. The age of bone was about to dawn. Chapter 5. The bony breakthrough. A new kind of strength. The world was changing. Once again, the continents were drifting into new configurations. Mountain ranges were rising, and vast, shallow seas were teeming with an ever-increasing diversity of life. In this dynamic world, a new group of fish was emerging, a group that would ultimately give rise to every land-dwelling vertebrate on the planet, including ourselves. These were the bony fishes. The key innovation of this new lineage was, as their name suggests, the evolution of a true bony skeleton. But what exactly is bone, and why was it such a revolutionary material? Bone is a composite material, a marvel of biological engineering. It is made up of a flexible protein matrix, mostly collagen, which gives it resilience and the ability to withstand stretching and twisting forces. Embedded within this protein matrix are crystals of a hard, brittle mineral called calcium phosphate. This mineral component gives bone its incredible compressive strength, its ability to bear weight. It is this combination of a flexible protein and a hard mineral that makes bone so special. It is both strong and lightweight, rigid yet not so brittle that it shatters easily. It is a material that is perfectly suited for building a large, supportive, and yet mobile. For one thing, it provided a much more robust anchor for muscles, allowing for even more powerful and efficient movement. The bony fishes developed a wide array of fins, supported by delicate yet strong bony rays, which they could use for steering, for braking, and for incredibly precise maneuvering. But perhaps the most significant advantage of a bony skeleton was its role as a mineral reservoir. Calcium and phosphate are essential minerals for a whole host of biological processes. from muscle contraction to nerve function. By storing these minerals in their skeletons, the bony fishes had a ready supply that they could draw upon when needed. This was a huge advantage in the fluctuating chemical environment of the ancient seas and rivers. The evolution of bone also paved the way for another crucial development, the swim bladder. This is a gas-filled sac that allows bony fish to control their buoyancy with incredible precision. The swim bladder is thought to have evolved from a pair of primitive lungs, and the ability to regulate the amount of gas within it gave bony fish a level of control over their position in the water column that the cartilaginous fishes could not match. With their strong, lightweight skeletons, their versatile fins, and their mastery of buoyancy, the bony fishes underwent an explosive radiation, diversifying into a staggering array of forms and colonizing every aquatic habitat on the planet. From the deepest oceans to the shallowest streams, the bony fishes became, and still are, the undisputed rulers of the aquatic realm. But the story of bone was far from over. This remarkable new material had conquered the water, but its greatest triumph was yet to come. The stage was set for the boldest adventure in the history of life, the invasion of the land. And it was bone that would provide the strength, the support, and the framework for this epic journey. Chapter 6. The Great Leap. Bones on land. For billions of years, life had been confined to the water. The land was a harsh and alien world, a sun-scorched desert, empty and silent. But it was also a world of immense opportunity, a vast, untapped frontier waiting to be colonized. The first life to venture onto land were simple plants and invertebrates. But for the vertebrates, the transition from water to land was a monumental challenge, a challenge that could only be met with the help of a strong, bony skeleton. The pioneers of this great adventure were a group of lobe-finned fishes, creatures like Tiktaalik, a remarkable fossil discovery that has been hailed as the missing link between fish and land animals. Tiktaalik lived in shallow, swampy environments, and its skeleton shows a fascinating mosaic of fish-like and amphibian-like features. It had gills and scales like a fish, but it also had a flattened skull, a mobile neck, and most importantly, robust, bony fins that were precursors to true legs. The bones within the fins of Tiktaalik and its relatives were homologous to the bones in our own arms and legs, a single, large bone at the top, followed by two smaller bones, and then a series of smaller bones that would eventually become the wrist and ankle, and the fingers and toes. These were not just fins for swimming, they were sturdy, weight-bearing structures that could be used to prop the body up in shallow water, and perhaps even to haul it out onto the muddy banks. The transition to life on land required a whole suite of adaptations, and the skeleton was at the heart of them all. The vertebral column had to be strengthened to support the weight of the body against the relentless pull of gravity. The pelvic and pectoral girdles had to become more robust to transfer the weight of the body to the limbs. The skull had to become more solid to protect the delicate brain from the jolts and jars of terrestrial locomotion. The early amphibians, the first true land vertebrates, were still tied to the water. They had to return to the water to lay their eggs, and their skin had to be kept moist to prevent it from drying out. But they had made the leap. They were breathing air with their lungs, and they were walking, albeit clumsily, on four bony legs. Life on land had begun. The evolution of a strong, weight-bearing skeleton was the key that unlocked the continents. It was the foundation upon which the entire subsequent history of land vertebrates was built. From the sprawling amphibians to the mighty dinosaurs, from the first flying reptiles to the great mammalian megafauna, every land-dwelling creature with a backbone owes its existence to that pivotal moment when a group of adventurous fish began to use their bony fins to push themselves up out of the water and take their first faltering steps onto a new and waiting world. Chapter 7: The Reptilian Revolution and the Rise of the Dinosaurs with the Conquest of the Land. The vertebrates were poised for another great evolutionary radiation. The amphibians had been the pioneers, but they were still tethered to their aquatic origins. The next great dynasty to arise, the reptiles, would be the first to truly sever their ties with the water and conquer the terrestrial realm. And once again, it was a series of innovations in their bony skeletons that paved the way for their success. The key to the reptilian revolution was the evolution of the amniotic egg. This was a self-contained life support system, a private little pond for the developing embryo, complete with a protective, leathery shell that prevented it from drying out. For the first time, vertebrates could reproduce on land, far from the nearest body of water. This single innovation opened up the vast, arid interiors of the continents to colonization. But the amniotic egg was only part of the story. The reptiles also evolved a number of skeletal adaptations that made them better suited to a fully terrestrial existence. Their skin was covered in tough, waterproof scales, reducing their reliance on moist environments. Their lungs were more efficient, and their skeletons were becoming increasingly robust and specialized. One of the most significant changes in the reptilian skeleton was the evolution of different types of teeth set in sockets in the jaw. This allowed for a more efficient processing of food and the diversification of diets. There were reptilian herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, each with their own unique dental adaptations. The limbs of the early reptiles were still splayed out to the sides of the body in a sprawling, lizard-like posture. But as the reptiles diversified, a new lineage emerged that would take terrestrial locomotion to a whole new level. This was the lineage of the archosaurs, the ruling reptiles, a group that includes the crocodiles, the pterosaurs, and the most famous and awe-inspiring of all prehistoric creatures, the dinosaurs. The key skeletal innovation of the dinosaurs was the evolution of an erect posture. Their legs were positioned directly beneath their bodies, like the legs of a mammal, rather than splayed out to the sides. This was a much more efficient way of walking and running, and it allowed the dinosaurs to grow to enormous sizes. The skeleton of a dinosaur was a masterpiece of biological engineering. To support their immense weight, the leg bones of the giant sauropods, the largest land animals that have ever lived, were massive, pillar-like structures. Their vertebrae were hollowed out and filled with air sacs, a feature they shared with modern birds, which made their skeletons surprisingly lightweight for their size. The dinosaurs were an incredibly diverse group, and their skeletons reflect this diversity. There were the bipedal carnivores like Tyrannosaurus rex, with their massive skulls, powerful jaws, and tiny two-fingered arms. There were the armored dinosaurs like Stegosaurus, with its iconic plates and tail spikes and ankle, a living tank covered in bony os. And there were the horned dinosaurs like Triceratops, with its massive bony frill and three-pronged horn arrangement for over 150 million years. The dinosaurs were the undisputed rulers of the planet. Their mastery of the land was a direct result of the incredible strength, adaptability, and diversity of their bony skeletons. They were the ultimate testament to the power of bone to create a framework for life on a truly epic scale. But their reign was not to last forever. A cosmic catastrophe would bring the age of the dinosaurs to a dramatic and fiery end, and in their wake, a new class of vertebrates, a group that had been living in the shadows of the dinosaurs for millions of years, would rise to take their place. The age of mammals was about to begin. Chapter 8: The Mammalian Takeover and the Diversity of Form. The impact of a massive asteroid 66 million years ago was a cataclysmic event that changed the course of life on Earth forever. The reign of the dinosaurs came to an abrupt and fiery end, and in the ensuing chaos, a new world of opportunity opened up for the small, shrew-like creatures that had been scurrying in the undergrowth for millions of years. The mammals had coexisted with the dinosaurs for a very long time, but they had always been small, nocturnal, and relatively insignificant. The extinction of the dinosaurs was their big break. With the giant reptiles gone, the mammals underwent an explosive evolutionary radiation, diversifying into a bewildering array of forms and sizes, and colonizing every corner of the globe. And once again, it was the adaptability of the bony skeleton that was the key to their success. The mammalian skeleton is a marvel of evolutionary design. It is both strong and lightweight, and it is highly adaptable to a wide range of lifestyles. One of the key features of the mammalian skeleton is the fusion of several skull bones, which provides greater strength and protection for the brain. Mammals also have a unique arrangement of teeth, with different types of teeth: incisors, canines, premolars, and molars, specialized for different functions. This allows for a much more efficient processing of food, and it is one of the reasons why mammals have been so successful in exploiting a wide variety of dietary niches. The limbs of mammals are another key to their success. Unlike the sprawling limbs of reptiles, the limbs of mammals are positioned directly beneath the body, which allows for a more efficient and powerful mode of locomotion. The mammalian skeleton has also been adapted for a wide range of locomotor styles. There are the running mammals, like the cheetah, with its long, flexible spine and powerful hind legs. There are the digging mammals, like the mole, with its short, powerful limbs and spade-like hands. There are the swimming mammals, like the whale, whose front limbs have been modified into flippers, and whose hind limbs have been lost altogether. And there are the flying mammals, like the bat, whose forelimbs have been transformed into wings, with elongated finger bones supporting a thin membrane of skin. The diversity of mammalian skeletons is a testament to the incredible plasticity of bone. From the massive, weight-bearing skeleton of an elephant to the delicate, lightweight skeleton of a mouse, from the streamlined skeleton of a dolphin to the highly specialized skeleton of a bat, the basic mammalian body plan has been modified and adapted to an astonishing degree. The rise of the mammals after the extinction of the dinosaurs is one of the great success stories in the history of life, and at the heart of that story is the bony skeleton, a framework of incredible strength, adaptability, and resilience. A framework that has allowed the mammals to conquer the land, the sea, and the air, and to become the dominant class of vertebrates on the planet today. Chapter 9. The Secret Life of Bones. More than just a scaffold for most of our story so far, we have been thinking of bone as a structural material, a scaffold upon which the bodies of vertebrates are built. And while this is certainly one of its most important functions, it is far from the whole story. Bone is not a dead, inert substance like the steel girders of a building. It is a living, dynamic tissue, a bustling hub of activity that is constantly changing and adapting throughout our lives. One of the most vital and often overlooked functions of bone is the production of blood cells. Deep within the core of our larger bones, in a soft, spongy tissue called the bone marrow, a remarkable process takes place. This is the process of hematopoiesis, the formation of all the different types of blood cells that are essential for our survival. Every second of every day, our bone marrow produces millions of red blood cells, the tiny, disc-shaped cells that are responsible for carrying oxygen from our lungs to every tissue in our body. It also produces a wide variety of white blood cells, the soldiers of our immune system, which are constantly on the lookout for invading bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens. And it produces platelets, the tiny cell fragments that are essential for blood clotting, preventing us from bleeding to death from even a minor cut. So, the next time you think of your skeleton, don't just picture a dry, static framework. Picture a vibrant, living factory. A factory that is constantly churning out the very lifeblood that keeps you alive. But the secret life of bones doesn't stop there. As we have already seen, bone is also a vital reservoir for essential minerals, particularly calcium and phosphate. Our bodies need a steady supply of these minerals for a whole host of functions, from muscle contraction and nerve transmission to the maintenance of a regular heartbeat. The level of calcium in our blood is very tightly regulated. If it drops too low, our muscles can go into spasm and our nerves can misfire. If it gets too high, it can lead to a host of health problems. Our bones play a crucial role in maintaining this delicate balance. If our blood calcium levels drop, a hormone is released that stimulates specialized cells in our bones called osteoclasts to break down a small amount of bone tissue, releasing calcium into the bloodstream. If our blood calcium levels get too high, another hormone is released that stimulates cells called osteoblasts to take calcium out of the blood and use it to build new bone. This constant process of breaking down old bone and building new bone is called bone remodeling. It is a process that continues throughout our lives. And it means that the skeleton you have today is not the same skeleton you had a few years ago. In fact, it is estimated that you get an entirely new skeleton every 10 years or so. This constant remodeling allows our bones to adapt to the changing stresses and strains that we place on them. If you take up a new sport, for example, your bones will respond by becoming thicker and stronger in the areas that are under the most stress. It is a remarkable example of how our bodies are constantly adapting and responding to our environment. So, the next time you marvel at the strength of your bones, or the way they allow you to move and interact with the world, remember that there is a whole other world of activity going on inside them. A secret life of bone that is just as fascinating and just as essential for our survival. Chapter 10. The Bone Wars, a tale of discovery and rivalry, the story of how we have pieced together this grand narrative of the evolution of the skeleton. is a story of scientific adventure, of intrepid explorers, of groundbreaking discoveries, and of bitter rivalries. And nowhere is this more true than in the story of the Bone Wars, a period of intense and often ruthless fossil hunting that took place in the American West in the late 19th century. The two main protagonists of this epic tale were Othniel Charles Marsh, a professor of paleontology at Yale University, and Edward Drinker Cope, a brilliant but often reckless paleontologist from Philadelphia. The two men started out as friends, but their relationship soon soured into a bitter and all-consuming rivalry. The Bone Wars were fueled by the discovery of vast fossil beds in the western territories of the United States, in places like Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. These were the graveyards of the dinosaurs, and they held the promise of fame, fortune, and scientific immortality for whoever could unearth their secrets. Marsh and Cope engaged in a frantic race to discover and name as many new species of dinosaurs as possible. They hired teams of fossil hunters. They spied on each other's digs. They stole each other's fossils, and they even resorted to dynamiting their own fossil quarries to prevent their rivals from getting their hands on them. The Bone Wars were a dark chapter in the history of paleontology, a tale of oversized egos and unethical behavior. But for all their ugliness, they also had a profound and lasting impact on our understanding of the history of life. Between them, Marsh and Cope discovered and named over 130 new species of dinosaurs, including some of the most famous and iconic creatures of all time, such as Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Allosaurus, and Diplodocus. The fossils that they unearthed provided a wealth of new information about the anatomy, the diversity, and the evolution of the dinosaurs. They helped to cement the idea that the dinosaurs were a distinct and incredibly successful group of animals, and they laid the groundwork for the modern science of paleontology. The story of the Bone Wars is a reminder that science is a human endeavor driven by passion, ambition, and sometimes by the darker side of human nature. But it is also a testament to the enduring power of discovery, to the thrill of unearthing a long-lost world, and to the relentless human quest to understand our own place in the grand and epic story of life on Earth. Chapter 11. The Architectural Marvels of the Skeleton. The bony skeleton is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It is a theme, a blueprint that has been modified and adapted in countless ways to suit the specific needs of different animals and different lifestyles. A tour through the diversity of vertebrate skeletons is a journey through a gallery of architectural marvels, each one a testament to the power of natural selection to shape and mold the framework of life. Consider the skeleton of a bird. It is a masterpiece of lightweight engineering. Many of the bones are hollow and filled with air sacs, which are connected to the bird's respiratory system. This makes the skeleton incredibly light, a crucial adaptation for flight. The sternum, or breastbone, is greatly enlarged and has a deep keel, which provides a large surface area for the attachment of the powerful flight muscles. The bones of the hand and wrist are fused together to form a strong, rigid structure that can withstand the stresses of flapping flight. Now contrast this with the skeleton of a mole. The mole is a digging machine, and its skeleton is a fortress of strength and power. The bones are short and robust, and the muscles are incredibly powerful. The hands are broad and spade-like, with an extra sickle-shaped bone that helps to widen the palm. The shoulder girdle is incredibly strong, and the humerus, the bone of the upper arm, is a short, stout lever that is perfectly designed for moving large amounts of soil. Or consider the skeleton of a giraffe. To support its incredibly long neck, the giraffe has the same number of cervical vertebrae as we do, just 7, but each one is greatly elongated, and they are connected by complex ball socket joints that allow for a wide range of movement. The legs are long and stilt-like, and the bones are incredibly strong to support the animal's great weight. And what about the skeleton of a snake? Snakes have lost their limbs, but they have a highly specialized skeleton that allows for their unique, slithering mode of locomotion. The vertebral column is incredibly long and flexible, with hundreds of vertebrae, each with its own pair of ribs. The skull is also highly specialized, with a number of mobile joints that allow the snake to swallow prey much larger than its own head. These are just a few examples of the incredible diversity of vertebrate skeletons. Each one is a unique and elegant solution to the challenges of a particular lifestyle. They are a testament to the fact that bone is not just a building material, but a canvas upon which the grand and beautiful story of evolution has been painted. Chapter 12. The Human Skeleton, a framework for thought and action. And so we come to ourselves. The human skeleton is the latest chapter in this long and epic story. A story that began in the primordial seas over 500 million years ago. Our own bony framework is a legacy of that ancient history, a mosaic of features that have been inherited, modified, and repurposed over countless generations. Our vertebral column, the central pillar of our skeleton, is a direct descendant of the notochord of our earliest chordate ancestors. The bones of our arms and legs are homologous to the fins of the lobe-finned fishes that first ventured onto land. Our skulls are a complex jigsaw of bones that have been fused together over millions of years of evolution, protecting the most precious and complex object in the known universe, the human brain. But the human skeleton is not just a relic of our evolutionary past. It is also a testament to our own unique journey as a species. The evolution of bipedalism, of walking upright on 2 legs, was a pivotal moment in human evolution, and it required a whole suite of changes to our skeleton. Our spine has developed a series of curves that help to support the weight of our upper body and to absorb the shock of walking. Our pelvis has become shorter and broader, providing a more stable base of support for our upright posture. Our legs have become longer and our feet have developed an arch which acts as a spring, making our walking and running more efficient. The evolution of bipedalism freed our hands from the task of locomotion, and this had profound consequences. Our hands, with their opposable thumbs and their incredible dexterity, became tools for making and using tools for creating art, for writing, for communicating. It is no exaggeration to say that the evolution of our skeleton paved the way for the evolution of human culture and civilization. Our skeleton is not just a framework for our bodies. It is a framework for our lives. It allows us to stand tall, to walk, to run, to dance, to embrace, to create. It is the silent, steadfast partner in every action we take, every dream we pursue. And so, our story comes to a close. From the formless, wobbly beginnings of life in the primordial ooze to the armored legions of the Cambrian seas, From the cartilaginous grace of the first sharks to the bony conquest of the land. From the epic reign of the dinosaurs to the rise of the mammals and the dawn of humankind, the story of bone is a story of strength, of adaptation, of innovation, and of resilience. It is a story that is written in the fossil record, in the anatomy of every living vertebrate, and in the very fabric of our own bodies. The next time you feel the solid strength of the ground beneath your feet, the next time you reach out to hold the hand of a loved one, take a moment to appreciate the incredible legacy that you carry within you. The legacy of bone, the framework of life. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the story of our skeletons, and you've made it this far, you're a true champion. We'd be incredibly grateful if you would consider supporting our work. A like, a share, a subscription, or even a comment to let us know your thoughts. It all helps us to continue to create content like this. Until next time, stay curious.